been a bit inspired by the Dauphine, Jolie. Been out on your bike.
I always, yeah, absolutely. Mirroring the feats of all of our favourites over there. All of them.
But have you been riding your mountain bike or your roadie?
Yeah. No, mountain bike. Roadie is currently in disrepair, so need you to service that for me as soon as you can, if you don't mind.
The tour's a couple of weeks away, Joel. You
I know.
You can't have a bike out of order.
Definitely need to get some Ks up before then.
That's
bit
like Unchained. One of the episodes where they've got all the mechanicals and they're running across the road. It's like a funny Benny Hill moment, like a GIF.
Mercy.
We're recording.
Oh, good. Okay, that's amazing. And if you're watching on, you'll notice that we're in boxes at the moment. I'm everything I own is in a box to the left, and Kate, you're in a box to the right.
Everything I own is in a box to the right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can call me Beyonce if you like.
You also have a blurred setting happening, so that when you lift your coffee up, it blurs it, as though we've deliberately planned that so to not drop a company or something. So we've thought of everything.
Hold on, I'm going to fess up to that, Joel. The reason I've blurred my background while I'm dialing into the bunker is because I didn't iron the background.
Oh, you didn't iron the backdrop? Oh.
No, I borrowed a black tablecloth from my mother to peel back the curtains a little bit on our production. And she was about to drive to Brisbane, so she didn't have time to iron it. And quite frankly, Joel, I don't know where the iron is. So
Fair enough. Clearly, you never went to backdrop college, because that is day one, lesson one, always iron the backdrop.
Yeah.
But that's okay. It's episode 51 of the Wheelhouse podcast. We've raised the bat for the half century, and now we charge forward into number 51. And a fair bit to get through, as you mentioned. Vingegaard and the like just strutting their stuff overseas. I'm interested to talk about pain in the Pyrenees, because there's been some absolute chaos over there and some aspersions thrown in the wake of that as well. We'll talk a little bit more about what we've seen now that cycling has gone fully mainstream with Netflix, and a few reactions from some of our absolute favourites, Wout van Aert, in that as well. And check in, Rupert Guiness is riding across America, as you do. Have you ever ridden across an entire country, Kate Bates?
Well, I don't think purposefully. I mean, I may have ridden across the Netherlands kind of by accident, because it's very easy to do, because it's very, small.
Right.
But I haven't purposefully. But I would now, if I could, to be honest. If I could go back and do some of those things, I probably would. But I'm going to age myself with this comment, Joel. I didn't even have a Garmin, I had an old school computer that kind of showed speed and distance.
Wow.
And that was about it. Average speed. But I didn't have one of these new fancy ones, because they were pretty new on the market. But nowadays, not only can you ride across countries, but we've seen the Strava art. We've seen some pretty magnificent data and dot tracking. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But there's a lot of ways to do it nowadays.
Yeah,
maybe the Wheelhouse should ride across the country. Not Australia, though. It's a bit big.
We could do a Forrest Gump. We rode clear across the state of Alabama. Okay, let's get into it, because I want to talk about Jonas's form overseas in. You're going to make me say it properly, of course. Dauphine.
Well done.
How's that? Not bad.
There's no R in Dauphine, but I'll take it, Joel. I'll take it. We're warming up ahead of the Tour de France, of course.
Would you say Jonas is knocking on the Dauphine over there with some inspired form? Let's talk about him and what it means as we do get closer and closer to the Tour, but also some of our Aussie absolute favourites doing really, really well. And I think uncommon ground to see three Aussies up in lights like this as well.
Yes. Well, Joel, I have a Wheelhouse exclusive. So I'm very excited to announce that the Lord Mayor of Perth, Basil Zempalis, one of our eminent sports commentators, I've worked with him at some Olympics and Com Games over the year, he has tentatively agreed to commission a statue for Ben Glutes O'Connor. I say tentatively because actually he just liked to tweet about it. But I'll take that, right?
That's enough. That's plenty.
Indicative.
That'll hold up in court. So is he agreeing to the what we want, which is a statue of us?
We haven't got into the details yet.
I want to call it the Colossus of glutes.
Well, look, we've had the designers on the go, and I think we agreed last week, didn't we? Even though I didn't want to, that the statue of glutes would pretty much be just of the glutes. But I think details, and he's got a bit of hot competition because Jai Hindley, Giro winner, he's now in the top 5 as well. So we had Ben O'Connor in 3rd, Jai Hindley in 4th, and then we had Jack Haig rounding out the top 5. Massive result for the 3 Aussies. Last year, Ben O'Connor was 3rd and Jack Haig was 5th. So we've seen 2 in the top 5, but not 3. And it is such a big run in to the Tour de France that I think we've got to get excited. And it was mountains. And the only thing that really let Glutzy down, I think, was the time trial. But Joel, if we want to, look at our little, what's that ball called, that tells you fortunes?
Crystal ball.
Crystal
ball,
you.
yeah.
If we look into our crystal ball, there's not many time trial kilometres at this year's Tour de France.
Okay.
Joel, so I'm liking that for our fellas.
So they're going the distance and they're doing it at speed.
I was just about to break into that song. They're going the distance.
Sorry, Bloodhound Gang, or whoever that was. Look, it's awesome to see Benny O'Connor peaking at the right time, but Jumpin' Jai, never far away as well. I like that, and sort of emerges at the right time, the right place, the right time.
He's done an exceptional job when he won the Giro last year of then preparing this season. Not doing the Giro, not going back, but looking for the Tour de France. I think he's on a lot of people's radars, but at the same time, there's more pressure on other riders. And so he can, to a degree, kind of ride his own race. And Bora will be doing a pretty good job to support him. But I'm just wondering, Joel, do you reckon he's of the generation? Do you think he even knows who Jumping Jai Tarima is?
Jumping Jai Tarima. Because that's where the
nickname comes from. So he was a triple jumper, wasn't he? Jumping Jai or a long jumper?
I thought he was a long jumper.
Yeah, well, look, he jumped. He was jumping.
Look, put it this way, he jumped great distances. Yes.
He jumped great distances forward, not upward. I know he wasn't a pole vaulter.
He wasn't a jumper or a pole vaulter. Okay. Look, we'll find out. He's a good friend of the wheelhouse. But I like what you say there because we do often talk about the hot 300 or however many riders are in the forefront of the men's side and the women's side at the moment. But Jai, despite his results, being a Giro winner, he's not in that discussion. So coming up as a GC contender and doing it like this on the eve of the tour, I love it. I love the momentum.
Yeah, I think you're right. And it's good. I think it's good for all of them to be able to, like for the Aussies, to come in as almost, and I say this with absolute respect, second tier behind the Pogacars and the Vingegaards, where all eyes will be on them, because It gives them a little bit more freedom, and it also gives them a bit of space from the press. Of course, the Aussie press will be all over them, but we don't have a huge Australian press contingent over there. We get incredible coverage for what we do have, in fact, but SBS send quite a small team, and a lot of our content comes from them, and then the likes of Sophie Smith. I'm actually really looking forward to Sophie Smith, and hi to Sophie. She hosted with me at the Tour Down Under before you got down there with the wheelhouse, but Sophie asks really respectful but hard questions. Like she's really good at getting the athletes at, like, peeling back the covers a little bit into what they're feeling and how they're approaching it in the way that only a really, well-hardened journo like herself could do. And so I think that we might get a few really personalised Aussie insights from some of the team that are over there. I'm looking forward to that. And I think you don't get too much pressure from the Aussie press because they're all nice, Joel.
100%. And look, it's an interesting point to make because we'll talk soon about media-athlete relationships and how they can have an impact on the intentions and the psyche of both camps. Let's be honest. We'll get into that. I want to ask you quickly about Jonas because we've spoken about Aussies. They feel like family. Jonas is genuinely family. So you must be excited that your 17th cousin is peaking at the right time as well.
Oh, I am, family first, bro, and all that.
Yeah.
No, I just like, there's something, and we're going to talk Unchained a little bit later, but there's something about his nature that I have really warmed to. He's not a natural in the spotlight. After the tour last year, well broadcast that he took a bit of mental health space and that he struggled with all of the spotlight and all of that. And we've certainly seen at the Dauphine, we talked about it last week in one of the early stages, that he won, but there'd been some stuff happening in the world that he said it's bigger than cycling. And I just really love that his approach to it is pretty open, emotive, vulnerable in many ways. I think
definite
that must be tough for him, but I like the vulnerability. Like it just makes him very human, and you go along on the ride with him a bit more. Like you feel it a bit more, don't you think? Like
I do. I really do.
We get used to these. I mean, you joke about it all the time, Joel. Like these, it's a game of two halves. The boys did their best, and they're just like these media trained lines that come out of their mouths. Almost, doesn't even matter who would say them. It's the same thing. But I feel like he kind of gives us just a real insight into what he's actually thinking.
Yep. And the old line, I can only focus on what I can control. And he's like, well, I can focus on what I can't control, which is stuff happening in the world as well, which has an effect. And it's like, oh, wow, they're very much human beings. Thank you for the reminder, Cousin Jonas. We'll see you at Christmas.
He didn't turn up last year, Joel. So
I know.
I think we need to get on the prod there to see if we can get him for a prawn barbecue.
I wonder if he'll wear his maillot jaune, just like turn up in and just like, hey guys, sorry, was there a colour code today? Was it yellow? Let's talk. So we're very happy with the Aussies' progress leading into the Tour. Cousin Jonas as well. The R statue is looking really good. The Colossus of glutes. Let's now go to the Tour de Suisse, Kate Bates, because one thing, and you mentioned this, Doco, we'll talk about it as well, but Stefan Kung coming up in that as well as one of the genuine elite sprinters, but not quite at the top of that pile. But plenty of reason to be smiling broadly, and that's absolutely what he was doing after the time trial.
Oh, I love Stefan Kung. I remember last year when the Wheelhouse was in its infancy, Joel, and we were talking about the Stefans. Of course, Stefan Bissiger being the other one. Who does feature heavily in Unchained. But Stefan Kung is like there's something about his face that's like a little kid, and he just has so much joy on his face. And he goes from pulling these intense suffering faces in a time trial like a flycatcher with his mouth open to just this broad, giant smile, especially, of course, when he's successful. Everybody smiles more on that end. But he just genuinely is one of the nice guys who goes out there, does his business, and when he wins, it's a bonus. And I love that. And I think that he's super refreshing. And I think that ahead of a tour with not a lot of time trials, it's a bit disappointing for a rider like him. But, it was good to see him win again. But can we talk about, just to go off the rundown here, and sorry, Merksy, but the Wout versus Remco in the time trial? I know they weren't on the top because Stefan Kung was, but are we watching like a preview of what's to come with the World Championships, maybe the Belgian Championships? Like, is this really the big story here, Joel? Like Wout versus Remco in time trials?
Well, it's they need a stage to take this rivalry to, and it's not going to be the Tour, obviously. So why the heck not? I say.
I know.
I love the competition. I love the competition, and Remco has obviously had a pretty big week as well. It's not exactly hot off the press that he won't be competing in the Tour, but obviously has still plenty to prove and plenty to ride for. And I think it's safe to say a bit of a chip on his shoulder at the moment. I think that's becoming really clear. So who better to take that out on than Wout van Aert?
You think that they're a good match for any shoulder chipping?
I think both of them have a chip on their shoulder at the moment, to be honest. They're both a bit grumpy. Yes. They're both a bit grumpy. So like, you know what? I'm coming for you, Remco, because I just can't find anyone else in my stratosphere to take this out on.
I've got to say, I'm a little bit sad for Remco. I mean, I think it's the right thing to not ride the Tour de France. He's come out and said that. But I feel a little bit sad that he does have a chip on his shoulder when he's so young and so fresh with so much ahead of him that the media's kind of burned him a little bit with all the reporting around his withdrawal from the Giro and COVID. And like, we've gone from this really open young man who, we had fun with at the press conference at the Wollongong World Championships When I was asking him if he'd heard of the Wheelhouse, and he said he was a big fan. We're going to put that
Huge
one
fan.
down in lights. But it's like, that was such a jovial, relaxed, nice kid. And to now see him quite defensive, and I think that's a real shame. Like, the media's done that to him, and I hope that the media can win back his trust and a little bit, because like we talked about with Jonas and showing the vulnerability, we don't want a cranky Remco who is doing media simply because he has to.
If I drop on the first mountain stage, it would be like a big bomb explosion in Belgium. Direct quote there from Remco. I think there's a lot to be looked into here around these relationships, and we spoke about it recently after the Giro, and that we were talking about the Italian media at that point, basically saying you're a big softie because you've bailed with COVID, and everyone coming out and saying, no, he was genuinely sick. And he's backed that up again with these comments and really alluded to this relationship. And I want to go further on this because we've seen, again, the great access of this doco that's doing the rounds at the moment, Primoz Roglic, also with an extremely prickly relationship with the media. And it's not just in cycling, it's across so many sports where we're so desperate for clickbait, we're so desperate for headlines, we're so desperate to manufacture angles that we're hammering these guys. And it's like, he is an ambitious young man. He has made that abundantly clear. He wants to be the best. Nothing's going to detract from that. Don't come at him like this when he's got genuine issues happening. And the Tour, not doing the Tour de France, abandoning the Giro, these decisions don't come lightly. For the fact of him to come out and say, no, this is why I'm not doing it, because you guys would make it a shit show for me, I think that's really ugly.
I think that's really significant as well. I had a really interesting relationship with the media when I was writing, because I just wasn't, it wasn't the same social media age that it is now, but I just wasn't that into it because I didn't trust them very much. And I don't know why, I think just intrinsically. But after Amy Gillett passed away, I called one of the reporters, and he's one of the best, Roger Vaughan, and shout out to Rog. I called him a vulture at one point because they were asking a lot of questions about how we were feeling about Amy and her death and the impact on the other girls. And at the time, emotionally, I just thought it was foul, to be honest.
Yeah.
And that's not a slight at Rog, because he's an exceptionally good journalist. And we've talked about it a fair bit since and joked about it. But I think that there's such a disconnect in those moments between what the athletes are feeling, the gravitas of it, and the need for journalists, with respect to them, to do their jobs as well, and get some stories. And so there is a real balance. And I think as more media come to these events and cover cycling, and as it is growing, it's a responsibility for journos to build a relationship with the athletes, to make them feel emotionally safe. And so that even if the athletes don't trust the broader media, that they still know that there are some safe spots to talk, and that they can block out the noise. But it's a really hard one. And, I think that the documentary Unchained, which, is everybody's talking about around their water cooler at the moment, that's probably the biggest game changer for the last couple of years in what they can see media, the role of media. And
indeed,
it's a really interesting space at the moment.
I think you've spoken beautifully there. And I think it's not about mollycoddling. Of course it's not. If there's a story to be told, if there's something to be fronted up to and some accountability to be had, yes, we want that. And that is part of the price of being in the spotlight. And that's just how it works. But sometimes, and I think Remco is a really rolled gold example of exactly what you're saying, is just pushing a little bit too hard on that. And to be honest, the pressure is coming within the peloton, and we're seeing it again at Tour de Suisse, because one of the great and difficult to pronounce names that you highlighted and just delightfully put me on the spot and made me try and work my way around has seen a meteoric rise. His first name's Matthias.
What's his surname?
No, I got in first, Kate. What's his surname?
Skelmoser.
That's what I was going to say. Skelmoser. Yeah. Not. Are you sure it's not Sujukelemosi?
Yeah. Oh gosh, I tell you, with all the various pronunciations of Vingagore that we got at last year's tour, and we're sure to get again, I think as Skelmoser rises through the ranks, we'll get that too. Now, he's only 22, so he's one of these young generations that we're seeing, essentially kids, to age myself to call them kids. But
absolute babies, aren't they?
they are. They really
Yeah.
are. They look like boys because they're so baby-faced. But he's 22, Danish rider. Trek picked him up a couple of years ago. They must have seen the big talent in him, but he's had a bit of a rough intro into World Tour. And if you look down his CV, the reason that we were pronouncing his name and learning to for the first time was because he got second at Flèche Wallonne. But before that, there weren't a lot of reasons to pronounce his name, except that last year at the Tour of Catalonia, Joel, he famously went off the edge of a bridge after a badly handled corner on a descent, and he went 15 meters down into a ravine. Terrifying images. Somehow this kid, he's fine. He climbs back out, and the first thing he says is, "Can somebody give me my bike?
I need a bike." Yeah.
And he ran top 10. So I think that goes to show his character.
Bike me
he's
up.
He's obviously got a fair bit of talent, and he's been just romping it at the Tour of Swiss and beating the likes of Remco. So I'm thinking that he's just another one to add. Did we start with like a pack of 4 that we thought?
I think it was almost like tennis at one point, a big three, because Primoz was sort of out of the spotlight a bit. So we were talking Pogacar, obviously, your beautiful cousin, and Remco. But now, obviously, Prim is back in absolutely stunning fashion. And it's a big 500 because I'm going to throw the Aussies in there as well. Yeah, well, I'm throwing Jai in there. I'm throwing Glutzy in there. I don't even care. I'm throwing them all in there.
He'll be good. And because Mads Pedersen is there as well.
Mads is in there, yeah.
And so if we look to the Tour, and we're at that time of year where everything is kind of looking toward the Tour, they're in a really good position. And I like it. And there's something going on in Scandinavia because they're just riding out of their skin, all these youngsters.
There's something in the beef. Oh, I went there. This is the Wheelhouse Podcast. You're listening to the 51st episode, and we're going deep on the Tour de Suisse. And I want to just make one more point because I'm going to say it right now. The pride of Eritrea. Back. Yeah. One of our absolute favourites who has been out of our radar a bit this year, which is saying something because we very much have a global radar on this show by, as you say, sliding into the DMs of riders, whether they like it or not. Biniam Girmay back with an absolute bang. Why has he been forgotten? And what is happening here, Kate? Help me.
Boom. Yeah, he's another rider. He had a massive start to 2022 season, and we saw him doing just amazing things at the Giro until he unfortunately had to exit after an eye injury caused by the champagne cork, if we can recall that.
That's right.
Which I think is just one of the best. I mean, how did that not happen when Netflix were around? Come on, that's fantastic. But
yeah,
I
can imagine him at the hospital. The doctor's like, "I'm sorry to say, Biniam, you've popped one off. You're going to be in intensive care for a few weeks."
Well,
one of those really embarrassing injuries to take to the ICU, I think.
But I am glad to report that his eyesight was not damaged because that would have been not a laughing matter at all. And then his season just didn't necessarily get back on track like we thought. Like he was there and thereabouts, but not right up the pointy end. And it's great to see him back. He's such a dynamic sprinter. And I really like his impact in the bunch. And it's when you see Girmay on great form again, and we know that Caden Groves is on great form. We saw that at the Giro. You're starting to see the emergence of the sprinters and the one-day riders really coming into form. And that's where it gets so interesting. I think of all the race days that there are, the reason that the Tour is such a big mecca is because it truly is where everybody is on their best form. Whereas a lot of the other races, you've got some targeting it, but some not really. Nobody goes to the Tour de France to prepare for another race or to warm up for something. So it is really where everybody's on form. So when you've got Binny, I love it.
Yeah,
he
Binny
was a big favourite at the Wollongong World Championships. He had huge number of Eritrean fans.
I was going to say, the travelling contingent. Yeah, it was massive, wasn't it? Yeah. I think, look, Binny, and welcome back. He's been in corking form. And I think it's safe to say that his new nickname is Bubbles. So that's really good to say on the Wheelhouse podcast. Always good to see a champion come back. And this sport is full of examples. You've mentioned 2 so far. We've been doing this show for 15 minutes, and just this week we've spoken about 2 incredible comebacks. Let's talk about shots fired and a little bit of drama with a cancellation and just some shit rhetoric in the women's tour of the Pyrenees. So incredibly dangerous conditions. Look, safety prevails, all of that. An abandonment of the race, crashes, race protocols a little bit all over the shop. But then I think an unnecessary extension of it from the race director coming out saying, calm down, girls. Basically, you're not the boys. Let's be honest, that's essentially what he said.
Yes, the race director, Pascal Baudron, he is now on my shit list, Joel.
It's a long list. It's a long list.
Well, look, Lefebvre is now not at the top. This fella is. So the athletes were really concerned with the riding conditions because it was a rolling road closure. Some races like the Tour de France, it's a full road closure. So there's barriers up, there's police, cars cannot get on the route at all during the day. A rolling road closure, they close it ahead of the race, and then once the race passes through, they open it back up.
So they were doing that in Wollongong.
It's a great, safe way to ride. Exactly. Wollongong had rolling for the first part and then closed for the circuit. But what's happened is that they haven't had enough motos. They haven't been far enough ahead of the race. It's caused absolute carnage. And at one point, it looked as though it was reported that the riders were wanting to neutralise the race, but actually the race was neutralised because so many people had fallen off that the race doctor couldn't get back to the convoy. So just an absolute mess. And rightfully so, the riders have stood up for themselves, but Mr. Pascal Baudron, public enemy number 1, has come out and called them spoiled children. Oh,
yeah, I love this because
really got me.
He's essentially said, come on, guys, what do you think this is? You literally don't have the right to expect a completely safe race. That's what he said. This isn't the Tour de France. Look, what the fridge? Yeah, I mean, what the fire truck?
I think when he lost me when he said the whims of spoiled children, because I think a really basic human right, whether we're talking about sport or anything else, is to be safe, physically safe, emotionally safe, etc. And to put riders in danger and then call them spoiled and essentially like just patronize them and say it's not the Tour de France, it just begars belief at this point. I think what it does highlight, though, is how, firstly, on the pulse everybody is, because a lot of people were picking up on this on social media, which is great, because this issue has been happening, especially on the women's side, for decades, I've got to say, shocker. But people didn't really know. So it wasn't talked about and it wasn't necessarily fixed. But the visibility now means that this guy should be and will be quite embarrassed, I imagine. His ego will be quite bruised because he is now being held up as an example of what not to do.
It was just unnecessary. I just thought, look, the girls have demands that are not in line with their level. They imagine they're on the TDF, all roads must be closed, that everything must be locked down. But in France, we can't do that. What? Anyway, and then, quite honestly, it's not worth organising a race to see all these months of effort ruined by the whims of spoiled children. So the whims that you refer to, sir, are safety, are going out and not being killed in atrocious conditions with poorly organised protocols closed. Are they the whims of spoiled children now?
The right to survive, isn't it? Yeah, look, I'm glad that the athletes have a voice now, and I'm really proud to see Adam Hansen, who's leading the Riders' Union at the moment, really amplifying that. So I think in that regard, there's a positive that we can take from it. But otherwise, I'm just bummed we didn't get to see the athletes racing over all these beautiful mountains in France.
I agree. I
understand from I spoke to a couple of the riders, and nobody really wanted to get too involved in the hoo-ha of what had already been a super negative experience. But I believe that the day after it was cancelled. They took some lovely training rides, went up the Obisque, saw some beautiful peaks and had a wonderful riding time around there. But it does bring up the issue that now there's a lot of race days lost, and especially the non-European athletes will now have quite a big gap in the race calendar before the Giro. So it does have a material effect on their season. But, safety first, and hopefully the race isn't on the calendar next year if they can't sort themselves out.
Well, look, that's what Adam Hansen said. So this is the women's races have to be on the same standard of the men. Of course they could. Like, Pascal is very much deflecting his own cock up here, and it's because of bad organisation, bad rolling closures, all of that. That's what this is about. It's not about petulant children, Pascal. You're being the petulant child in this. That's what's happening here. So good on you. You look great. The world's really laughing and enjoying your little takedown on that one. So good to see. Let's move on the Wheelhouse podcast. We'll stay with the women's side of it at the moment. EF launching a women's team. You've got some intel around this. Increasing funding, increasing status. What's going on? I'm a bit excited.
Boom, boom, boom. This is good news for the women. Now, when this story first dropped this week, when they said EF are launching a women's team, I was a bit confused, to be honest. I was like, they already have one, Alison Jackson in Paris-Roubaix, with EF across her chest in the pink.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's why I was confused. I was like, wait a minute, am I just losing it? Is this like an alternate timeline, multiverse or something?
I know.
Okay, good.
I think the comms were potentially a bit confusing, but the women's team, while they do share EF as a sponsor to the fellas team, the women's has been EF, Tibco, SVP, Silicon Valley Bank. Tibco and SVP are now out. And so what the men's organisation is doing, that is headlined by Jonathan Vaughters, hasn't he been vocal lately, Joel? They're bringing them in-house. So instead of being two separate teams that just share a sponsor, we're now going to have a women's and a men's team under the same banner. And it does give them access to, it pretty much gives them like the keys to the kingdom, the women's side. So now they'll have that support in the same way that we see from Movistar or Jayco Alula or Trek, these big teams that operate as one, men and women. In this moment, I'll say, Ineos, we're still looking at you. Where is your women's team? But we'll park that for another moment. But it is good. I think that it'll make quite a material difference. And we do have riders, like we've got the Paris-Roubaix champion, Alison Jackson is on there. And it's a big team. We've got one of the Backstead girls who will surely do big things in the future. It is a really talented group of athletes, and they deserve to get that equal kind of standing. So happy days for those.
Ali Jackson putting in one of the rides of the year across genders, across formats. It doesn't even matter. That was outstanding. So that's really good to see. Not bad for a bunch of spoiled children, Kate Bates. I think you'd agree.
Oh my heavens, indeed. Oh, indeed.
Last week we were talking about team names, and I'd like to thank everyone who contributed, because we had some absolute rippers come out. Long live the bin chickens. We were talking a bit about the fact that it's hard to become rusted onto teams because you don't know what they're called, basically, and that continues. And I love this because they've gone to social media. DSM said, same team, new name and kit. That's what the post says. It's like, same team, new name. It's not the same team. But anyway, Team DSM will become Team DSM Firmenich.
Nice.
I was pretty close.
And I do like to look up our new sponsors and see what they do for the sport. I'm very happy with this one. And I think we've got another Wheelhouse exclusive here, Joel, because Firmenich is a Swiss fragrance company. And I believe ahead of the Tour de France, they're launching with the team now. So by the end of 21 stages, we're going to have an eau de sweat from Team DSM.
Right. Yeah. They can give out the sweaty jerseys and that as well.
For Firmenich.
Okay. Great.
You know, like Issei Miyake, Acquadigio, we're going to have DSM team fragrance. What do you think? Because, they're selling the jerseys at the end. So they're just going to wring out the jerseys first and bottle it. And Bob's your uncle, you've got a market leader.
How delightful. Yeah. Firstly, when I first saw Firmenich, the social media post had the emoji of a fire, like a flame next to it.
Oh.
So I thought it meant flame or fire. So I was like, DSM flame, DSM fire. Okay, sure. Doesn't mean that at all. And I don't know. I think I'd take fire over fragrance, but that's okay. I don't mind it. The sweaty jerseys are a big deal in cycling, so good luck to them. Merchandiser's dream.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not that, unfortunately, it's not fresh money. DSM just acquired Firmenich as a company, and in the same way that we saw Lotto, and then every iteration of another company where it was Lotto Destiny, and we had Lotto Belisor, and we even had Lotto Predictor, pregnancy test.
Mate, see, my gripe stands overall. It is obviously like plant your sponsors everywhere you need to and everywhere you can, get them front and centre. Don't call your team. Like, it's ridiculous. And it's not the only sport that does it by any stretch. Go to Southeast Asia and watch some football and try and keep up with the team names there, and rugby as well. But it's just a little bit disenchanting.
I mean, we're on a firm mission here. This is now 2 weeks in a row that we're advocating for this. So I think we start collecting signatures, perhaps.
I think so. I think go the Jayco bin chickens, because it just works. I like it very much. The Ineos bobbies as well is still just bubbling away for me. But anyway, let's talk about documentaries and give Netflix another free plug, because I'm sure they'll do the same for us. Now, I just want to quickly focus. Obviously, it's out, so people have seen probably most of the episodes. But I want to hone back on the second episode in the series, and the reason we want to hone back on it is because your bestie, Wout van Aert, has come out and said, what? What's that all about? How dare a documentary maker take things that I said and contort them into a storyline to suit their narrative? What documentary maker has ever done that before? That's not fair. Anyway, I just want to say quickly, like, great episode, really good insight into Jumbo, into this absolute empire, and a well-oiled machine for the most part, aside from some hilarious roadside hijinks in that. But Wout's come out and said, I don't like how I was portrayed in that. Basically because he was like, yeah, look, Primoz and Jonas are the go guys, but I'm just gonna run ahead and grab this stage. Then comes back the next stage and provides one of the great trains to pull in the time gap on Pog for Jonas. Anyway, my long story short is, I thought he came across as an absolute legend.
Yes. Now, this is interesting. I mean, a lot of my circle have binged Unchained. They've watched every episode either in one sitting or two, bit of sleep deprivation going on.
Yeah.
I have not yet made my way to the very end. I'm trying to peter it out a little bit. But there is one particular episode that you're describing around Jumbo that Wout has reacted to. I find this one really interesting, I've got to say, because I watched the episode and came away, like you, thinking Wout van Aert is a legend. But more than that, Jumbo-Visma are absolute geniuses, because their ability to manage a personality and a talent like Wout van Aert with personality, talent, ambition of Vingegaard and Primoz Roglic last year is absolutely remarkable. But it's like all the chatter and people are kind of throwing a bit of shade at Wout, actually, which is probably why he's reacting how he is, saying that he's not an amazing teammate and he made some selfish moves and whatever. I think it's so unrealistic. It's like, when you've got these personalities in a big team, there will be tension and there will be clashes. But there was one fantastic scene where Wout was on the massage table and his team director says to him, you know, what you have done today, it's upset Jonas, and I think that you could handle it better, and you need to consider the move that you make when you're in that position next time, which is what you described, Joel. The next day, he does better for the team, and he sacrifices his stage and his yellow jersey for that. That's incredible evolution. Like, to expect these guys to get it perfect every stage when they're under such pressure and in the heat of the moment, I think is unrealistic. But to be so agile and to be able to communicate in a way that Jonas feels safe, again, this vulnerability, to say, I wasn't happy with that. But he doesn't like walk into the dinner table and upend it and say, you're a bastard and I can't believe you've done that. I mean, I'm not sure that Jonas knows Aussie swear words, but apologies for that one.
Yeah,
but
you bloody drongo, Wout.
And I know. I mean, I think that's the point, right? Like,
Yeah, of course.
he's allowed to feel upset by that. How advanced and mature they are in handling that, I think, is brilliant. And there were TV cameras around who, like, if you think that they caught all of it and they would have caught any grisly moments, and that's the grisliest.
That's what they went with? Yeah, exactly.
Come
that
on
was
now.
exactly
What a
my
great
take.
storytelling. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I love it. I love Team Jumbo-Visma even more than I did before. And Wout.
It's quite clear, as we've said, that Jonas is a bit of a shy customer, and he's not sort of, he doesn't, cameras are, and it's still played out really pretty calmly. What I did like is the insight that we had to the absolute chaos trackside when he's like, we planned for everything. We planned for everything except for a drop chain. And then he basically jumps on a penny farthing bike to ride for a few Ks. It's like, yeah, this is no good at all. I'm small. This bike is massive. And then they fix it all up. They turn it around. They end up closing a gap of, I think, 45 to about 15 seconds in the last 10 Ks or something like that. It's all good. It's good drama. It's also really hectic. It's extremely hectic. And another plug for these athletes being some of the bravest souls on the planet, because I said to you the opening montage in that and in several of the episodes is actually a little bit uncomfortable at points because it's really, really confronting, crash-heavy, drama-laden chaos, basically.
It is. I mean, it's got everything, in my opinion. Merksy said last week that he thought it was better than Drive to Survive. Merksy, do you stand by that this week?
Absolutely.
But I think so too. One of my favourite lines in it, in the Jumbo episode, I won't delve into too many more, was Nathan van Hooijdonk, who's significantly taller than Jonas, when the chain drop happened and they swapped bikes, he just says into the radio, I'm on Jonas's effing bike.
Yeah.
Like seriously, guys. And then they have that very funny moment where they're all trying to swap bikes back again. It is like organized chaos. It is like herding cats. It is so crazy out there. And we see this beautiful vision and we think we see the chaos because we see what the TV cameras see. But outside of the chaos that everybody sees is another 1, 2, 3, 4 layers of chaos.
Oh, 100%.
And you watch this and you're like, how do you even win a one-day race, let alone a 3-week tour?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
It just is remarkable to even get to the end in one piece. So, yeah, I'm loving it. Although I've got to say, I've read this morning, Joel, that Netflix haven't confirmed yet a season 2.
I'm
a bit disappointed with them.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have another set of signatures to advocate for that because I want a season 2.
Netflix, we will stop plugging you on this show if you don't confirm a season 2 ASAP. Snappy. You also saw, of course, the Primoz Roglic, that stack happening at the same time. And that, I just want to quickly mention, heralded the nickname of Sticky Tape Man. That was the moment when his out lycra was just torn to... It looked like he'd been in a fight with a wolf. Gets back on the bike, finishes the stage in a great deal of pain. But I tell you what, the turmoil, the chaos, the tension, the drama, the buzz, it's all there. And it's interesting to see. But yeah, Wout, like go easy on yourself, mate. You came across pretty bloody well, if you ask me. And can I just say quickly, get out of the way, the cars. It really highlights how close they are. And some of those narrow, especially on the cobbles, get out of the way because we're just got something awful is going to happen. I don't want it to, but for God's sake, do something about the cars.
It is a cluster of chaos. And I'll add to the comment on Primoz that had he have not just won the Giro, it would have almost brought up a lot of trauma watching Unchained and what happened and, putting his own shoulder back into place after he dislocated it, like the poor fella. But now that he's had his fairy tale, now you can watch it and, kind of ride the wave with him rather than it being devastating. So that was good timing. I don't think they planned that. But it was good timing. Convenient
timing that you get when you're documenting premium athletes doing elite work. Now, let's talk about a new player in the game on the Wheelhouse podcast. Actually, let's talk before that. Oh, sorry, because I'm really excited about this. There's an absolute glut of national championships coming up. I want to talk about this quickly first. Not Australia, but overseas. And I think the pride that we see that national jersey brings could have a decisive impact over the remainder of the season outside national championships. So I wanted to talk to you about your picks, I guess the highest profile national championship battles that we're going to see in Europe.
Yeah, I think it is worth mentioning because what happens is the week before the Tour de France, the UCI puts on hold any UCI racing so that the European countries can have their national championships. Of course, in Australia, we have ours in January. But this weekend is a wonderful tradition. It means the Aussie riders actually get a weekend off and get to have a little bit of either a training camp or downtime. But we talked about Remco and Wout van Aert going for the Belgian National Time Trial Championships. What a battle that'll be. This year, the national championships for Slovenia, I believe that Primoz and Pogačar are riding amongst others. So, hello, how good will that competition be?
Strap yourselves in. Yeah,
exactly. And if you go to France, and we've got the current form of Demar and Laporte and Alaphilippe, like, hello, that's a pretty cool one. And then if we go to Great Britain, Mark Cavendish is the current incumbent road race winner, but Geraint Thomas comes in off amazing Giro form, and he'll be riding that. These will be some incredible races. And then what's really cool is they get to then debut their champions jersey at the Tour de France, a lot of them. So the teams value national championships and champions very much because they get to create this distinctive kit, and it's fantastic. For 2022, EF Education, Easy Post, they had 6 different national champion jerseys in their team. Ineos had 4 after that. UAE had 4, Bahrain had 4. So it is a bit of a thing of pride. So let's see what we can do here. I reckon Ineos might be in a pretty good position, but EF as well. And can I just say, if Ben Healy wins the Irish National Championships for the road race, he's currently the time trial champion. I will be so thrilled because he's such an exciting and animated rider that I reckon he'll bring that jersey a lot of pride in the peloton.
Oh, sure will, and we'll go to town on nicknames. Obviously, if he becomes the king of the Shamrocks, that'll be amazing. That's really great, and I just think that you grow an extra leg. Obviously, that jersey does so much, so could have quite a decisive impact on the tours. I'm interested. You brought up GT there, Geraint Thomas, obviously coming off a good GT. GT's got another GT coming up. If he can get the NC to take into the GT, we'll see. A delightful result. I don't know, just riffing. So
I don't know, but those acronyms are making my head spin.
It's just take it easy on GT, please. Now, Zwift, bit of competition. There's a new player in the game. There's a new cat in the hen house. Is that the expression? I don't know. Whatever. Olympic esports series kicking off very, very soon. This is like, ooh, okay. I've got shivers of excitement, and I kind of want to get the popcorn and watch this unfold.
They do. I mean, there's been a lot of chat in the Olympic circles and certainly cycling about will the Olympics take on esports? And the answer so far has been not for the major games, not for our summer games or our winter games, but they've carved out their own series. So there's the finals of this weekend in
Singapore.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and they're using Zwift as the platform for the racing. And the qualification for cycling was done back around the World Championships. So we've got some of our highest profile esports riders doing that. But this comes at the same time, Joel, as Indy Velo. Have you heard of them before? If you haven't, well, you know what? You're probably somebody who's learnt about them this week because they've just launched and everybody is like, holy magoli, what is this? They're a competitor, Joel.
I know. I was that is exactly what I said. I said, holy magoli.
Yeah, that sounds like words you'd use. Yeah.
I did. No, but it's great. I love this Olympic one because it's basically that, global amateurs, pros, doesn't matter, come from anywhere, but it's got that prestige to it as well. Just put the Olympic word in there. We've seen what Zwift can provide. We've seen the pathways. We spoke about it ad nauseum. Another dimension to that, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, I think this is really interesting because it's unrealistic to think that we're ever going to keep a monopoly in the esports space. And Zwift do have some competition. They've got My Whoosh, which is a big platform, and it's on the UAE jersey, so that's a pretty prominent one. But this Indie Velo, they've come from people who have been inside Zwift, and the fella behind it has actually been on a commissioner at British Cycling. He's involved in the racing side over at Zwift, so he knows it really well. But what he's created with Indie Velo, it's less about community and far more about the racing side. And so they're working really hard on tweaking all of the inputs to make it more realistic to racing. So like wind and corner speed and all that sort of stuff, so that it's not just purely as reliant, I guess you'd say, on power to weight. So I think it's a really interesting platform, and I think it could be really cool for the racing side. But I think it will create change for the better across the board, because I love the community side of Zwift. Like, that's a really, really big up for it, is that you can go for these group rides, that you can ride with Geraint Thomas after he's nearly won the Giro, and chat to him. And it isn't just about racing. So many products in cycling focus on the people who want to race, but there's a whole lot of people who just want to ride. And so I think this will force Zwift to look at their business plan and who their customers are and their demographic. And it'll also mean that Indie Velo has to really come in swinging and be better, not just better at racing than Zwift, but better at getting people engaged, because it isn't just all about racing. So I'm interested. I've kind of got the popcorn out on this one to see what happens.
I like it. I love the community thing you're speaking about as well. There's a podcast. There's a cycling podcast which is doing a really good job of not just focusing on the racing, but bringing in the community. What's it called? Oh, that's right. The Wheelhouse with Kate and Joel. You should check it out sometime. That's what it does. Now, Rupert Guiness is one of many friends of the Wheelhouse fraternity, the Wheel Pack. We tried to get him to abandon his race across America to come exclusively on the show, but that's okay. He didn't want to do that. That's fine. But you've got a little bit of an update. You're on Roop Watch. You've got the Roop tracker.
I am. Well, as we go to air, I literally have the Rupert Guiness dot.
What are we going to call it? We need to think of a Wheelhouse name for it. What's it called? I don't know. I don't know.
But I can tell you that the RG dot, which I'll call it just for now, Rupert Guiness, as we are chatting, he is heading from the East Coast, the West Coast, oh my gosh, the West Coast of the US, across to the East. He's ridden about 120 miles at the moment. He's plugging along at about 20 miles an hour. He's got a long way to go. He's got a couple of days left to go. He won't be taking a lot of breaks, Joel. So I reckon we'll chat to him next week and see how he's going. But dot tracking, it's like a new virtual sport on its own. Like, you go, these websites are cool. Like, you go on and you can just like choose a rider and fixate on their dots and see exactly where they're going. So, at this point, Roop's about to head into Phoenix. Okay. He's around there.
He's somewhere near Phoenix.
To Washington. He's got a ways to go.
The Roop Scoop. Thank you for providing us with a Roop Scoop, on this edition, 51. We'll hear from him on 52. And please don't ever get the East and West Coast mixed up if you're with Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg, because that won't go down very well, but that's okay.
I was doing my Never Eat Soggy Wheat Bix, so that's how I at school learnt how to do your north, south, east and west.
Yep. Like music. Let's say you use your music charts as well.
There you go. But I did need my hands to do that. I hope that Roop isn't stopping at every intersection and going, Never Eat Soggy Wheat Bix. Where do I go now? That would be unfortunate.
It's like, I'm meant to be in Philadelphia, but I'm in Wisconsin. I took the wrong turn. What an absolute machine. Good luck, Rupert. We love you at the Wheelhouse, and we can't wait to hear how that is all going. Maybe Kate and I will do a ride across Australia, inspired by your heroics one day.
Have you looked at the ride across Australia, John?
Yeah, I've been mapping it out, Kate, because I'm so excited to do it.
Can we choose a smaller country, perhaps?
I said right. I didn't specify what manner of vehicle we'd be riding in.
Like Monaco,
an A380,
Vatican City.
That's better. That's more like it. I like it very much. This is the Wheelhouse Podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure as always, Kate Bates. Thank you for the wonderful insights, anecdotes, and let's call it smackdowns that you bring to the table every single week. It's been a pleasure. My name's Joel Spreadborough. Like, share, subscribe. Tell everyone you know. Bye, Kate.
Ciao.